Namaste. Hello students, I am Krishna Oza. Being your biology teacher, I would like to introduce you with 9th standard science, biology chapter number 5. The name of the chapter is the fundamental unit of life. So before we start, let me ask you some questions. What is the main unit of a building? What is the fundamental unit of any living organism? And what is a cell? So, as you are not in front of me, let me give you all the answers of these questions. What was our first question? Yes, what is the main unit of a building? Means how building is made up of. So, the answer is the building is made up of many things, but the fundamental or main basic unit is a brick. We all know without brick a building cannot be made. So, same as building, what is there in us, what is there in living organism to make the whole living organism? Yes, the answer is it is the cell. So, we can say that a cell is the main or basic unit of life. And again the question was, what is a cell? So, as we had given the answer in second question, the cell is a fundamental, structural and functional unit of life. Means any living organisms are made up of a cell. Now, let's study about what is a cell. So, here there is a history of a cell. How cell is discovered? Who discovered it? How he discovered? So, let's see. In 1665, Robert Hooke, this is the name of scientist, Robert Hooke has discovered the cell in his self-designed microscope. See, in 1665, the discovery of microscope that we are having right now was not there. So, Robert Hooke has made his own microscope, and in his own microscope, he has observed the slice of a cork. So, you will question, madam, what is the cork? Cork is nothing but the bark of a tree, and we are using it to close the mouth of a bottle. So, in cork, Robert Hooke has observed a structure of honeycomb. So, he observed the small compartments in the slice of a cork, and he gave the name cell. In Latin language, the cell means a little room. So, the cork contains so many little rooms, so many compartments, and that's why it has been called a cell. So, the cell is a Latin word, and it is discovered by Robert Hooke in 1665. Though it is a very minute discovery, but till today in biology it has a very much importance, because as we know, biology meaning living, right? So, in living things, all the living organisms, though it is a tiny bacteria or it is a huge elephant, the cell is the fundamental, structural and functional unit of life. Now, let's see how the cell we can observe under the microscope. What is its shape? You can see here on the board that cell is made up of mainly three things, that is a cell membrane or plasma membrane, a nucleus and a cytoplasm. So, here you can see this is the cell membrane, the outer covering of the cell. outer border of the cell is known as a cell membrane or plasma membrane. The inner jelly-like structure which is present inside the cell is known as cytoplasm. And the third one is nucleus, that is, it is in the middle of the cell. And we can say that nucleus is the brain of the cell. It controls all the functions of the cell. So any cell contains three things: the outer boundary or a border, that is cell membrane or plasma membrane, the inner jelly-like substance, that is known as cytoplasm, and the nucleus, which is generally spherical in shape, and it is known as the brain of a cell. So this is the discovery of cell. Now let's understand how we can make any cell visible under the microscope. So now students, let's move towards the topic, that is activity 5.1, how we can observe the cell under the microscope. As I told you before that cells are very small compartments and very tiny compartments. They are not observed by our naked eyes. So for observation of the cell we have to take the microscope. So let's go ahead and study that how we can observe the cell under the microscope. Here we are observing the cell of an onion peel. The activity here shows that onion cell under the microscope. What you have to do, take a small piece of an onion bulb, okay, then remove the epidermis from the inner layer. Means we have to take out the skin of an onion which is transparent. Epidermis meaning the skin. We have to remove the skin of an onion from the inner side of the onion bulb which is transparent. This we have to do with the help of a forceps which is available in our lab. Then place it in the watch glass containing water. By placing it in water, we are assuring that the onion peel, the epidermis of the skin will not get dry. Now after few minutes with the help of a brush, we have to take this onion peel which is epidermis on the glass slide. We know that glass slide is made up of a glass and it is rectangular in the shape. So on this glass slide we have to take onion peel and keep it on the glass slide. Now add saffron in solution on it. So here saffronin is a type of dye which we can say, okay, it is used to color the cell, right. So here in biology we are not using the word dye, instead we are using the word stain. It is a orange color stain which we use to color the onion cell, because as I told you the epidermis of onion is transparent. So how can we observe the cell? Therefore this stain which is known as saffronin is used to color it. Cover the peel with a cover slip. Cover slip generally it is round or square in the shape. We have to take care that bubbles will not come when we cover the onion peel, that is known as specimen. Our specimen which we are going to observe under the microscope, when we put a cover slip we should observe that air bubbles should not come. Now observe this under the microscope. Now this slide we have to observe under the microscope. So when you observe it under the microscope, As it is stained by safranin, it will show you pink colored many small compartments which we call cells. So here in the diagram you can observe the cells of an onion peel. So again, as we studied that a cell has three components. Number 1, cell membrane or plasma membrane. Number 2, cytoplasm, and number 3, a nucleus. So same things you can observe here in the onion peel. So this is cell membrane, which is the border of the cell, then the cytoplasm, a jelly like structure, and in the center the nucleus. So we can observe this under the microscope. Now I have a question that if I have a big onion and a small onion, then the cells of both the onion are same or different? So the answer is yes, you are right that the cell of all the onions in the world is having same structure. Means if you see the onion from any of the region of the world, you will see that the cells having the same structure. Okay? No matter whether it is a big or a small, it is of any of the region of the world, it has no difference. So now let's move toward the contribution of scientists in the world of cell biology. Many scientists have given their contribution, means they have discovered so many things in the field of cell biology. So let's start with contribution of scientists in the field of cell biology. First we have studied already, that is Robert Hooke has discovered the cell in 1665 with the help of his self-designed microscope. Now in 1674, Leeuwenhoek has discovered free living cell in pond water under the microscope. Third, in 1831, Robert Brown, he has discovered the nucleus in the cell, as we have discussed earlier, that a cell contains three things: a cell membrane, the nucleus, and the cytoplasm. So this nucleus has been discovered by Robert Hooke in 1831. In 1839, Purkinje has given the term protoplasm. Actually, protoplasm contains all the components of a cell, all the living components of the cell, that is cell membrane, nucleus, and cytoplasm, which is known as protoplasm. In 1838 and 1839, Sladen and Scaven had given us the cell theory. The word cell theory means that all the living organisms are made up of cells. All living organisms means all the animals and plants and microbes. These all are made up of a cell. So this cell theory had given by Sladen and Scaven in 1838 and 1839. After that, in 1855, Virchow has expanded this cell theory, means he has explained us in detail that what the cell theory means. So these are the contribution of scientists in the field of cell biology. Now in 1940, there was a discovery of electron microscope, and through the electron microscope we can observe each and every tiny cells under any organism. So it is a very big discovery in the field of cell biology. So different cells are there, and different cells have different shape, different size, so and different numbers too. So on the basis of numbers of the cell, we can divide any living organisms in two categories, that is, organisms are either made up of a single cell or it is made up of many cells. The organisms which are made up of single cell are known as unicellular organisms. Uni means single, cellular means cell. So these organisms are made up of a single cell. Only one cell in this organism will do the whole activity. It can digest, it can excrete, it can respire. So all the activities which any organism is doing is done by a single cell. Another type of organism, that is an organism made up of many cells, are known as multicellular. Multi means many and cellular means cells. So the organisms which are made up of many cells are known as multicellular organisms. In this type of organism, all the activities like respiration, digestion, excretion, all the activities are divided in different cells and different organs. So on the basis of number of cells, we have divided organisms into two categories, that is unicellular and multicellular. The organism of unicellular organisms, the examples of unicellular organisms are amoeba, paramecium, chlamydomonas and bacteria. We are familiar with amoeba and paramecium as we have studied it earlier in earlier classes. Chlamydomonas is a type of algae which you can see a green color patch on stagnant water, and bacteria we also know. In multicellular organisms, the examples are human beings, plants and animals. Some plants and almost all animals and human beings are known as multicellular organism. So as I told you before that different cells have different types of number of cells, shape of cell as well as the size of cell. So each cell has its different shape and size. So amoeba is a one type of cell which is continuously changing its shape. It do the movement by continuously changing its shape, right? So its shape is not permanent, but many cells which are given in our book, okay, has a fixed shape. There, for example, a muscle cell, a fat cell, a sperm cell, an ovum, these all are having a fixed shape. Each cell has a certain basic characteristic that it can perform all the basic functions. So that's why it is known as a fundamental unit of life. So we have a question that how a cell can perform certain basic functions. As we know, in our body, each and every organ has a definite function. A heart pumps the blood continuously. The stomach will digest our food. The kidney will excrete the urine. Like there is a distribution of labor in our body. Means each organ has given a proper work. So on the basis of this, a cell can perform all the basic functions. Who do this? So in the cell, there are so many cell organelles which will perform all these basic functions. So now the another word comes, cell organelles. Cell organelles are the components of cell which are present inside the cell. For example, lysosome, mitochondria, plastids. These all are the cell organelles which have a particular function to do inside the cell. Now we will study each cell component, cell organelles in detail. Now students, let's start with the main component of the cell, okay, that is plasma membrane. Okay, first of all we will see about the plasma membrane. Plasma membrane is also known as cell membrane, as we have discussed earlier. It is nothing but a border which surrounds the shape, and it will separate the shape from the surroundings. Okay, it will separate the component of the cell from the surroundings. It is also known as selectively permeable membrane, means it will select which component has to enter the cell or which component can exit the cell. Means here it is a membrane which selects any component to come inside or any component to go outside. Without its permission, any component does not enter the cell or any component does not exit the cell. So cell membrane has three names. It is a cell membrane itself, a plasma membrane, and the third one is selectively permeable membrane. Now let's move ahead. A cell requires oxygen for energy production. So how does oxygen get inside the cell? Here the plasma membrane is there, as it is selectively permeable membrane. It allows the oxygen to get inside. But how? When it allows? The question is that. So the cell has one thing, that is diffusion. Cell does the diffusion. What is diffusion? The movement of substance from the region of higher concentration to the region of lower concentration. Means oxygen will enter the cell or exit the cell, that will decided by diffusion. So again, diffusion is the movement of substance. So here our substance is oxygen. So movement of substance from the region of higher concentration to the region of lower concentration, means high to low the substance will move. For example, a cell contains low amount of oxygen, then from the outside the oxygen enters inside the cell. That is, the surrounding of a cell has higher concentration of oxygen. So again, diffusion, movement of substance from the higher to lower concentration. So here you can see in the figure, for example, the cell contains carbon dioxide. So these are the molecules of carbon dioxide. If you count these molecules, obviously inside the cell the concentration of carbon dioxide is higher, and outside the cell the concentration of carbon dioxide is lower. So as per the rule of diffusion, there will be a movement of carbon dioxide from the inside of the cell to the outside of the cell. Same if we take an example of oxygen, then the concentration of oxygen inside the cell is lower compared to outside the cell. So as per the rule of diffusion, the oxygen will move from the outside of the cell to the inside. So here we can show the movement of oxygen and carbon dioxide like this. Oxygen from outside to inside the cell and carbon dioxide from inside to outside of the cell. So each gases or each substance can enter or exit cell with the help of this diffusion. If cell requires anything, it will take from the surroundings by diffusion. If a cell contains any waste material, then it will remove it out by the process of diffusion. So here gases specially follow the law of diffusion. Again, let's remember the definition of diffusion: the movement of substance from the region of higher concentration to the region of lower concentration. It is known as diffusion. Now, what about water? So here I told that generally gases follow the law of diffusion. Then the water follow the law of osmosis. Osmosis is nothing but again the movement of water molecules from the region of higher water concentration to the region of lower water concentration through a semi-permeable membrane. So students, what is osmosis and how actually it occurs, that we will study in our next lecture, that is part 2. Thank you.